only one place to start really in the events in Paris. I just wanted to go back to Tuesday nights at England v France at Wembley. How proud are you of the way that the football community has come together at this time?
Well, I would like to thank as well the English community and English football who shown great solidarity. Of course, it was a shock, a huge shock for our country and our football as well. And I think football world has responded the way you want it to respond, in a big union and a big togetherness.
It must have been a tough time, particularly for Laurent Koscielny and Olivier Giroud, who were involved in that game.
Yes, because you always sit there after this kind of event to wonder, do you continue or do you stop to your life to play? And for me, they made the right decision, and I believe that the event on Tuesday night has shown that it was the right decision.
Just looking ahead to Saturday's game now against West Brom, can you give us the latest team news, please?
Hector Bellerin is available again, and I believe that Ramsey should not be, Chamberlain should not be available. And of course, we have some longer injuries, longer term injuries. Walcott is 1 or 2 weeks away, and Rosicky, Welbeck, and Wilshere, of course, for later.
Arsene, I think you were in Paris on Friday, weren't you?
Yeah. I was not at the game.
You were not?
No.
How did it affect you personally on Friday night, and what was happening?
I was not far from the event, and I think everybody was in Paris on Friday night, was under shock, because the whole city was shocked. I think France is, like England, a tolerant and generous country, and to discover how much your own citizens hate you and hate the country is of course a huge shock for everybody. You wonder what's going on there. Why does this country get this kind of treatment? And I believe at the moment nobody in France has found an answer or a real explanation for what's going on and why, because what was targeted is the way of life, basically. Football, going out, listening to music, and so it's more a way of life that is targeted than any individual community.
Did you fear for your own safety when you were out and about on Friday?
You know, I was more under shock than fearful, because you could be scared what's going on, because it was 4 different places who were attacked in the center of Paris, so you don't feel secure anywhere. And I was late in my appointment and was late to go to the stadium, so I decided to watch a game inside the hotel where I was. And in the end, in the hotel we were quite secure, but no, the streets were of course empty, completely empty.
I presume nobody you knew was caught up in it. Everyone you know is okay?
Yeah, yes.
When you went to the game at Wembley, I know that the obvious answer is that everybody who went put our faith in the authorities to keep us safe. Did you then have any other level of anxiety when you heard about the game on Tuesday being called off, the Germany-Spain game?
No, I feel the danger in this kind of situation is to overreact a little bit. And I think that's what happened with Germany. And Spain, Belgium, I'm not sure, because in Belgium, you know, there's in Molenbeek was a big center of terrorists who lived there. So I think that was cautious. Germany maybe overreacted a little bit, but you can understand that.
Does it change anything for you going to football stadiums now in the coming weeks and months?
You have a bit more of a question of security, because it looks like it's not the end of it, in France especially. But a way for us is just to get on with life and respond it in a positive way to the situation, because you cannot stop just everything. You know, we have to continue with our lives and try to get as well people to focus on something else.
I think one or two of the France players said after the game that they maybe didn't want to play the game with hindsight.
Yeah.
What are you doing in terms of keeping an eye on and protecting and supporting Olivier and Laurent in terms of their mental well-being at the moment?
One way to deal with it is to focus on something else and do what you can do. And I believe that it is sometimes an opportunity to get out of this kind of problems, just to focus on what you can do well and give pleasure to people who come to want to watch football.
And you touched on it a little bit earlier, but on a social level, not on a football-related theme, are you worried for France as a country?
Yes, of course. I'm more worried that it could divide the society and create some tensions inside the country that could be damageable for the kind of tolerant and multicultural society. But as well, you wonder what can change inside the country, and you have to trust politicians and to make the right decisions to counterattack against that.
And do you believe the country can provide a safe environment for Euro 2016, and what's the importance of that tournament staying there?
I feel the country can provide, maybe, I told you France is a tolerant society. Maybe if we were a bit too much tolerant and had not enough security worries, and certainly we have to raise the level. One of the good things to what happened now is that the security level will be raised, and maybe the 2016 Euro in France will be more secure.
And just on a football note, a couple of players that are Arsenal this week being with contract talks at the moment. Is there any update you can give Arsenal fans on Mesut Ozil, where the talks are going on with him?
We have not started to talk about that with Mesut Ozil.
And what about Alexis Sanchez?
As well, in the same situation. You know, these players are, at the end of the year, they have 2.5 years contract, and we have some time. We are not in a hurry. We want, of course, them to stay here at the club, and we'll start the negotiations at some stage, but at the moment we have not started.
And is this the sort of period you think about beginning that, maybe from the new year to the summer?
Yes.
To protect yourselves
from a new year to the summer, we'll certainly start it with all the players who have 2 years to go at the end of the season.
I guess you don't want to get a situation like Bakary Sagna and Robin van Persie, Sami Nasri in the past, where the club is exposed.
Look, that depends sometimes on age, and yes, we do not want. The difference is that we are today in a stronger position to negotiate than we were at that stage.
Thank you.
The Premier League are thought to be considering having the Marseillaise sung before matches this weekend. Well, what's your reaction to that?
I think it's a nice gesture of solidarity. It's not an obvious one for the fans, because it would not be an obvious one for the fans in France to sing God Save the Queen, because they don't know the words, but symbolically it's a nice gesture, very nice gesture.
What did you make of how that was all handled at Wembley on Tuesday?
I think it was fantastic for France, and it showed the class of England to see the arch of Wembley in the French colours was something that had a strong significance for French people, and England handled this situation with a lot of class.
Everyone does react differently to these sorts of events. You said one way was to focus on other things. Will you also be allowing your players, if they do want to talk about it openly, to have that sort of discussion as a group?
Yeah, if they want, yes, of course. You have to talk about it, to deal with it. And I believe that in the French national team they did talk about it. And but after a while you want as well, let's come back. Life has to be stronger than fear. And the way for us to get on with life is to focus on our job.
And one last one from me, on a very different subject. Richard Scudamore, the Premier League's chief executive, said yesterday that gay footballers would be treated with respect if they went public about their sexuality. What do you make of? Do you agree with him?
Of course, I believe when you watch a football player, you don't know, you don't want to know what is his sexuality. What you want to see is a football player, no matter how he is in his private life. I think, of course, but you want to respect everybody.
Do you think the landscape of people's reactions, though, has changed? We've become.
It has become more tolerant towards that situation. I wouldn't like to say it's perfect, but certainly better than 10 years ago.
Arsene, Lauren Koscielny spoke after the game on Tuesday about how difficult it was to focus on the football.
Yeah, and I think he's a good example because he had a fantastic game against Germany, and you could see that on Tuesday night he was not himself, and it affected him, I think, deeply, and I didn't recognize the player I saw on Friday night on Tuesday night.
Do you think you'll be in the right state of mind to play on Saturday?
I will talk with him, and it's a big game for us, and I have not talked to him yet, but I will talk to him to see if he's completely recovered and focused.
How will you handle it? Will you say if you don't fancy it, don't?
Look, this is you have to trust the player on this kind of situations, and because today in the Premier League you don't get away with it with 80% focus. You have to be completely committed, and what I will want from him is that he's completely committed and feels ready. If not, I will not play him.
During the international break, I believe the FA contacted you for information or any further information about doping, or could you?
Yeah, I've been contacted. Yes.
How is that progressing? What was your response?
Look, I'm open to talk to the FA, of course. I just mean you've seen that the doping problem suddenly turned up on track and field as well. We have a problem in cyclism, and think that we in football are just immune because we are football players is absolutely wrong. What I want is deeper tests, better tests, because what we test is is superficial. And what you want is to make sure that, and as well, when people are caught, that they are punished. You cannot say that, and that the clubs are punished as well, you know. And we have to tackle these problems and not to close our eyes, because it's a little bit, I think, not reasonable to think that just because we are football, we have no problems with it.
What kind of tests? How far should it go?
Blood tests.
After every game?
Of course. Look, today, when you play away in the Champions League, most of the time we lose 2 hours when there's a doping control, because people cannot fulfill the test. With a little blood test, it takes a minute, you know, and you can test much more. We sit sometimes on the airplane and wait for half an hour or an hour until the guys who have made the tests can come back and fly back. You come back at 4 o'clock in the morning because the tests did last too long. I think it's simple, and why can we not do it? And in the other sports they do it.
Last one, Lindsay.
West Brom are the lowest scorers in the Premier League. What do you make of them as opposition this weekend?
I watched them against Man United, and they looked a very well organised team who is absolutely, as always, with Tony Pulis full committed, you know. And so on top of that, they are in a difficult situation a little bit in the Premier League. So you expect what you get now in the Premier League from everywhere is a committed, physical, fast game, and a game where we cannot afford to make any mistake.
Finally, I've heard you say a couple of times in press conferences about you get this from everywhere now. Do you feel that the gap between the teams now is so narrow. You don't actually go into a game thinking those are maybe relegation contenders. You just think that anybody can win.
Yeah. I would even say that you don't even look at the table anymore, because you know what you get. I agree with you that the difference between the team has narrowed, and that today it's more how much can you be close to your best that will decide the result when the team you play against.